What do you make about this visit from the House of Representatives Speaker? You know what, it seems that the White House were advising her not to go. She went anyway. Was it a wise move?
I think it's a very good move. Wise, I'm not going to answer that because I don't really know how wise it is, but I think it's a good move. I think we've got to actually do a lot more to support Taiwan. I mean, at the moment, Western countries, that includes the United Kingdom, won't take their naval vessels into Taiwan. That's wrong. We sent a sort of carrier force around Taiwan. Most of it went to the east of Taiwan rather than the west through the Taiwanese Strait to avoid offending China. Sorry, China. Taiwan is an independent country. They all want to remain independent. They do not want to go back to China, and we in the West should support such a thriving democracy, which is such a success.
When you say support, the big question is, isn't it, how far does that support go?
Well, what you're implying is, would we go to war over Taiwan? I don't know that we would. I mean, it's very interesting that Japan has said quite recently that, what happens in Taiwan is of crucial concern to them, and implied, military action may come. The Chinese, for their part, are actually gearing up their armed forces, possibly to do an assault against Taiwan. That would be appalling. The Americans are saying, we'll stand by Taiwan. What does that mean? Does that mean they would go to war for Taiwan? Would we? I mean, it's a long way away, I agree. But frankly, if we are not more bellicose, the Chinese will push and push and push. They want Taiwan back within the fold of China, and they want it within the Chinese president's term.
And isn't that where the parallels in some ways with Ukraine, Bob, come from, in the sense that, those kind of bellicose voices were not there for a long time over the last decade, which seemed to embolden Vladimir Putin. And the sense is, if it's not there with Taiwan, then Xi Jinping will reach the same conclusion that clearly the Russian president did.
Well, to be honest, there's been continual pressure on Taiwan over the last 10 years, continual, because I've watched it, because I've been chair of the group in Parliament for a long time, and I have visited Taiwan. By the way, if the Chinese were to invade Taiwan, my goodness, I hope they're not that silly, but if they were to do that, it would not be a walkover, I can tell you. The Taiwanese would fight, and fight quite hard. They do not want to be taken over by the Chinese. When I was in Beijing a couple of years ago, I did stand up in the foreign ministry and suggest that perhaps China ought to look at Taiwan as a model as to the way it should change and become more commercial and more democratic. That did not go down very well, I can tell you.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff, isn't it? And as they say, in many ways, Bob, that Taiwan itself is a kind of natural fortress to a large degree. I mean, there would be a massive element of risk for China in its invasion. Just very finally and quickly, if you can, what does this say about kind of British-Chinese relations, though? I mean, we had, of course, that golden period, or the so-called golden period, about 10 years ago. They're pretty fraught at the moment, let's be honest about that, aren't they?
But they're pretty fraught because the Chinese don't keep their word. I mean, they've not behaved honourably with regard to Hong Kong. They're actually behaving dishonourably with regard to human rights in the rest of their population. And frankly, we can't trust them. They spy against our industries, and they try and steal our intellectual capital all the time. So frankly, I don't think the Chinese are people that we can do business with. We have to, but I don't like the idea.